It's early in the day, and I just heard this voice in me, this feeling that was trying to compel me to do some kind of strength workout. And another part of me, another voice, another feeling, another aspect of being was terrified of that and gave me the excuse that you don't have the time, you've got too much to do, we don't have time for a workout. And this is a common occurrence for me, that I have this compulsion to work out, and then I have this repulsion to working out. And there's always a way to frame it that stops me from doing the workout. And while this battle continues in me, I take steps anyway outside of that conversation, because that's an old conversation. That's an old version of Tim. That's old learning, old neural networks that don't serve me anymore. So while that's taking place, I use that compulsion, that desire to move, to simply take a single step without trying to turn it into a workout, without framing it as a workout. I'll give you an example. So what I did just before turning this camera on that gave me the thought was I pressed down on the arms of my chair and I just lifted myself up and I held for like 10 seconds. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working my lats, I'm working my triceps, I'm working my forearms, and I'm working my chest. And I held it for like 10 seconds, and then I just dropped. Now, would you call that a workout? No. But I do that throughout the day. I do that with all manner of movements. And over the course of the day, it adds up, and I stay fit. In fact, my fitness is improving doing this by letting go of the idea that I need to do a workout and that it needs to be in a separate container. So I've got this to do in this container, and then I got this to do in this container, and then we've got the workout container, and I hope I can make time for it. I hope I have the energy for it. I don't need to make time to do this. That's it.
Wow.
It's about 7:30 p.m. and I just got to the studio after dinner to do some elliptical and some editing. And it's been one of those days. And what I mean by that, I woke up this morning and I could feel my body and my identity having a sense of weight, that the day was bigger than me. I didn't feel physically capable of handling it, everything that needed to be done. And my identity, the character in the play, in the story, in the narrative, didn't feel up to it. It felt bigger than both my body and my identity, my character. So I've been practicing gentleness at an extreme level throughout the day. And the key here is that when you get into a state where you're really through the floor, you have to allow yourself to be there. You can't fight it. You can't try to will yourself through it or push. That's going to have negative consequences. And I understand some people are in situations where others are relying on them to perform at a certain level. And if that is the case, and you have the ability to renegotiate those relationships in particular moments, I think that's essential that you do so, that you communicate what is possible and what is not possible. But yet at the same time, it's not about taking yourself out of the game. It's simply about changing the way the game is played. So I ran 5 3/4 miles today, which most people don't do when they're in a bottom level depression, but that's possible because of the gentle steps that I take. And in order to take those gentle steps, I have to allow myself to be in that state and not try to fight it, not try to push through it. So what that looked like today and what that's going to look like this evening, other than me getting the camera out a bunch of times and trying to record a video and no words coming out of my mouth, because speech is controlled by the left hemisphere. And even though I knew exactly what I wanted to say, I couldn't use that part of my brain that makes me talk. Thought is a mixture of both hemispheres. So thought is a collaborative effort, but speech is very specifically a left brain process. And when you're in a bottom depression, your left brain isn't getting nearly enough blood. So your right brain is taking all of the blood, not all of it, but a lot of it, more than its share. So things like speaking are very difficult. And I've gotten myself into a somewhat better place now, and I can talk. But I've tried to make this video many times today and failed. So here's what I did to get myself to run today, even in the midst of a bottom level depression. I was out at the paint store getting paint for a project at my family's house. And I realized that it was getting later in the day and I hadn't really engaged in physical movement yet. And I know that I feel better if I do, but I had no interest, I had no desire. And when I did a scan of my body and my desire, it was just not there, not going to happen. And then I noticed that there was this sense that running was bigger than what I was capable of. So what I had to do was take a look at this conceptual thing called running that I had created in my mind, that I was avoiding, that I was afraid of, that I didn't feel that I could measure up to. And when I took a look and really spent some time with that, I realized that I have this idea, and I think most people do, that running is hard, running is not comfortable, that because of my history, I have to run for a long time. I usually have to run up some kind of mountain, and that just didn't feel possible. So I asked myself a question. Well, what about just getting out of the car and taking a walk? There's a bike path across the street from the paint store. What if we go over there and just start walking? Is that part of what you're afraid of? No. Okay. So I started walking. And then I got to the bike path and I asked myself, okay, what if I just run a little bit here? What if we just increase the speed? Is that part of this thing that you're afraid of? Tried a few steps. Nope. Okay, I'm not afraid of that. So what is it that you're afraid of in this moment? And as I tuned in to the actions that I was taking, I wasn't afraid of any of it. And suddenly I'm moving, I'm running, I'm enjoying it. I'm going at a very comfortable pace. It was, I think I averaged 9 minutes and 43 seconds a mile. You can look on Strava. And it was comfortable. I walked a bit. I took a lot of pictures. I took some video clips of the river that the bike path goes along. And I had a good time. And nowhere in that run did I feel any pressure, because I kept checking into the moment. Okay, what's happening here? How do you feel right now? Is this enjoyable? Yes or no? Are you going too fast? Do you want to run faster? And at the end, I did. I started playing around with my cadence and I picked it up. And I think I was running 6:20 pace per mile at the end. And it felt good. I was playing. So the moral of this story is that when you feel the urge to do something, and simultaneously you feel a repulsion, like I can't do this thing, I don't want to do this thing, I need to avoid this thing, take a look at what it is you have created. Like, what is this thing called running? I need to go for a run. Clearly, my brain has a concept of what that is, and that concept is what's scaring me, that package. But what if I open that package up and I take a look at the components, and then I engage in a couple of those components? Okay, it means that I have to go outside. Well, here I am. Is that scary yet? No. I'm going to move my body. Okay, here I'm moving my body. Is that scary yet? No. And when you break it down, you suddenly get access to movement that has nothing to do with this larger concept that you're trying to avoid. So I think it's a really good idea to train yourself to avoid words like workout, like running, which are going to have a historical, conceptual look and feel. So when you use those words or even think about doing it, the whole thing gets loaded. Your historical experience with that activity gets loaded rather than the mechanics. Like, okay, I have to go outside. I have to pick up my feet. I have to fall forward and look at things, go explore. But I'm not going to tell you that suddenly my day was magical from that point forward. I was still in a pretty serious state of depression. So I went home, I did some work, and then I just realized, you know what, you need to lie down. Being awake right now, trying to attend to things is too much. So let's just lie down for a bit. And I took a nap, then I had dinner. Now I'm in a better state, and I'm here at the studio, and I'm going to slowly work into the elliptical. But at this point in my life, there's almost never a day where I don't move. There's almost never a day when I don't do something highly productive. It may take me longer to do it, and I may not do it with a great deal of intensity, but I do it. And it's not because I have willpower or discipline. It's that I allow myself to be really, really gentle. There's no identity that I'm trying to live up to. There's no reputation that I'm trying to keep. I'm just allowing myself to explore the components of movement rather than some large conceptual chunk that feels much bigger than I'm capable of. But I don't have to do that thing, and I don't. And because of that, I'm consistent. I move every day. I hope that helps. One more final note for the day. I just finished 50 minutes of elliptical to the movie Wild Target with Emily Blunt and Bill Nighy and the red-haired kid from Harry Potter whose name I don't know. Anyway, I love that film, and it puts me in such a good mood. So it allowed me to move and engage on a machine that's pretty difficult. But 50 minutes was my max, which is pretty low for me. It's rare that I don't do an hour and a half on the elliptical. Anyway, my goal is not to knock it out of the park every day. In fact, rarely is my goal to knock it out of the park. That might happen just a couple times a year. Almost every other day, so let's say 363 days a year, my goal is simply to move. Not to add it up, not to worry about it. I'm telling you how much I did. But as far as I'm concerned, that's not really important because it's what happens over time that matters. It's the consistency that matters. And it's about building a history of gentleness with each activity so that I don't have negative memories built up, because they will accumulate and then I'll find a million reasons not to use that machine or not to run. So if I try to do it perfectly, if I try to use perfect form, if I try to hit a certain heart rate or time, there are going to be days when I can't meet those metrics. Like today. If I had set myself up with a goal today, there's no chance I could have met it if my goal was to meet the goal. But by allowing myself to engage in a way that my body feels comfortable with, I got something done. I ran almost 6 miles. I got 50 minutes over there. That's a lot. That's enough. And it doesn't need to be perfect. So a big component of my work is to remove the attempt to do things right, to do them perfectly, and to hit certain milestones. I just let it happen. And that allows me to remain consistent no matter how I feel. No matter how bad the day is, I'm going to move because I don't have to hit any particular mark in order to feel good about what I've done today. Moving is good enough. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow.